our guy, Anthony Slater. He joins us on the River Islands guest line right now. It's a busy time for them. He has got a lot of news stories that he needs to be breaking right now. Slates, thanks for joining us. Before we get started, is there any news you may want to break right now about LeBron and the Warriors potentially?
Not at this moment, and I don't think during this phone call.
I thought I'd try anyway.
Yeah, it seems like this thing may drag a little bit. So, at least that's all the signs right now.
Well, then I guess based off of that, and I know this might be this is kind of a difficult question because no one has a crystal ball here, but as you're reading the tea leaves, you're tapped into it, you got people hitting you up with updates on this stuff right now. If you were to guesstimate a timeline for how long this could play out, how long do you think we might be waiting right here until LeBron does pick, I guess, which would be decision 4.0 here?
Yeah, only he really knows, and it's like, is he waiting to see what, maneuvers teams are able to make in these early days of free agency? Are some of the suitors able to beef up? Philadelphia, obviously, yesterday, got Jaylen Brown. That has to make them a more appealing destination. Clearly, Rich Paul has made it, that obvious that everybody in the league is able to pitch him at this point. So, as far as that goes for the Warriors, I think any type of hint we could get would be if they do make any significant move over the next, however many days that might be in concert with something. But, to answer your actual question, I do not know the timeline. All I just continue to get signals of is this will probably continue to take days and days here.
Slates, thanks for coming on. As of right now, what does Anthony Slater think the Warriors' chances of landing LeBron James are?
Decent. Certainly not, overwhelming. They're keeping it relatively close to the vest. They are in the mix. Some people around the league you talk to think it's going to be them. Some don't think it's going to be them. So I don't think there's any. I have been given no firm indication that he's heading there for sure. And anybody I talk to with the Warriors, again, this is obviously smokescreen season, but nobody there seems to believe it's some sure thing.
We got Anthony Slater here joining us on the River Islands guest line, covers the Warriors for ESPN. So Slater, as we're seeing all these other names coming off the board here, it's starting to feel like this offseason is it's LeBron James or bust for the Warriors. Is that kind of an accurate way to be looking at this right now?
Yeah, but I don't think that they, they in a lot of ways planned for this kind of stability route. Again, I don't think it's necessarily one that's going to fire up the fan base if LeBron James doesn't join. But they thought LeBron was probably going back to the Lakers before it was obviously declared he wasn't. And re-signing Al Horford, re-signing Kristaps Porzingis, Draymond Green is expected to come back. DeAnthony Melton's coming back. They got this rookie Axel Lindenberg. They've kept their ink dry, and their books pretty clean long term. They have the cupboard of draft picks, and I always. I wouldn't say it's LeBron James or bust to them. I think it's LeBron James if LeBron James wants to come on a bargain deal that's very appealing short term to make them better on the wing spot. And if he doesn't come, they'll probably try to make another, smaller type of addition in free agency. And, again, it might not be a roster that fires up the fan base, but it's kind of been part of their plan.
Yeah, I guess on that note then, Slater, you kind of mentioned that if LeBron does go somewhere else, what is the pivot that the Warriors make once LeBron is officially not coming here?
Yeah, look, there's decent names out there. Anthony Simons is one I've spotlighted at times that would fill a need as far as like a scorer off the bench, kind of that Jordan Poole role from several years ago. Could you get him on what I think would be a bargain, contract? We'll see. At any moment he could fly off the board. So the pivot is probably just a smaller tier free agent signing, and the roster mostly is what it is.
Anthony, so obviously it seems like the Anthony Davis talks have died down as far as luring LeBron here. Is there any inkling that if LeBron were to come here that they would pursue that again?
That is a great question. Potentially part of what is in the mix the next several days. Again, the Warriors continue to message that that's not necessarily something they desire to pursue, partly because that means trading Jimmy Butler, and they continue to, assure Jimmy Butler that is not part of their plans. The other part is the Wizards, have come out pretty firmly and said they want to keep Anthony Davis. They may have extension talks. I believe he's extension eligible in August. The Warriors also, as I said earlier, have a desire to keep their books clear long term, and Anthony Davis has 2 mega years of contract left, and again is extension eligible, does desire an extension. So there's a lot of layers there that make it unlikely and maybe unappealing for the Warriors to go pursue the Anthony Davis path. But then you have to ask the question, if that is the LeBron James tax to get him to come, do you at least attempt to do that? I don't know the answer to that at this point.
Anthony, talk about LeBron making his decision here. Nick Friedel was on yesterday. He thinks it's 50-50 between the Warriors and the Cavs. Assuming for the sake of this question that is the case, it is just those 2 teams. What's the case that the Cavs could make to LeBron that could swing him to go back there for a 3rd time rather than come to the Warriors?
2 things. It's a storybook ending, right? If you were like writing a epilogue or whatever, a retirement tour type season, I think Cleveland is probably the most, like I said, a storybook way for him to close it out. Like I could totally see him just in a Cavs uniform next year, going to every arena, announcing basically it's his last time there. Remember how Kobe did with the Lakers? So something like that. Plus, they're good, they're not. I don't think if they went there, we would call them the title favorites, but they got a lot of talent there. He'd be playing with Donovan Mitchell at this point, unless they make a trade like Evan Mobley, James Harden, like that's a decent core. But I will say, like, all the messaging from Rich Paul and LeBron is like he's open to all callers at this point. So I wouldn't necessarily just limit it and say it's Warriors Cavs. Clearly, Miami seems to be in the mix, and people were talking about Philly yesterday. I saw a report out there that Denver made a call. Like Rich Paul's really opened this up.
Anthony, I think people are looking at that Jaylen Brown trade with some eyes yesterday, as it seems like they kind of took the Celtics for a ride with that trade. Was there any inkling around the building that the Warriors had any interest in acquiring Jaylen Brown, or was that even a possibility for them?
I never heard that they were in the mix on Jaylen Brown. I don't really believe they even kicked the tires much. Obviously I don't know every phone call that Mike Dunleavy has made, but at no point during the Jaylen Brown process did it feel like they were in it at all.
So you mentioned Jimmy Butler a little while ago and how they don't want to move him. And my guess is that if they did get involved with the Jaylen Brown trade, it would have been Jimmy. So are they really content to just kind of play this year out with Jimmy and then let him walk? Or is there a potential they actually might try to extend him? Because you also mentioned they want to keep their books clean. I guess what I'm asking is just, what is Jimmy Butler's future with the Warriors looking like right now, in your opinion, based on where things stand right now?
Yeah, it'll depend on how he looks when he gets back, assuming he is still here, and how he plays, how the team finishes the season, what type of direction they want to go in at the end of the season. Jimmy Butler, he, like he said it to me the other day, he thinks he's going to come back and be the same player that, as he left off, which was still like a top 15, 20 type player in the league. You give a wing like that a lot of money, but obviously at this point, considering he's coming off ACL tear at his age, he's got to prove that. And part of the Warriors' clear plan right now is about like flexibility long term. So I can't answer that question at this point because they can't, right? They don't know what they're going to do with Jimmy Butler long term, because I don't think they know at all what they want to do yet with this roster over the next half decade. And that's partly why they aren't really paying anybody beyond this year, next year.
Anthony, do you have any idea about what a pitch to LeBron would look like? And what I mean by that is, like, obviously they went to the Hamptons to pitch for Kevin Durant. Is there going to be a pitch where, I don't know, Steph Curry goes and meets LeBron, or Draymond does? Or is this going to be all done by Mike Dunleavy and Joe Lacob? Do you have any idea of that, or any feel on what the situation's going to be there?
Yeah, I mean, like the people at my place that know LeBron the most, right? The Dave McMenamins, the Shams of the world are saying that LeBron's not, gathering for in-person pitches at this point. It's just Rich Paul making phone calls, bringing situations back for LeBron James. Now, everybody's got a phone. One of the Warriors, real advantages in this situation is they have a lot of people that know LeBron James. Steph Curry knows him very well. Draymond Green knows him well. Steve Kerr coached him in the Olympics. So they can reach Rich, but they can also reach LeBron for phone calls. But to answer your question, I've been given no indication that there's going to be any type of Hampton-style meeting, because I don't think LeBron's holding any. Because remember, that wasn't just a Warriors thing. Like Kevin Durant had 5 teams come there for pitches, and it just doesn't seem like, not only that LeBron's going to do that, that just doesn't seem like the modern free agency in the NBA, right? That seemed like something that was just like a decade ago.
Anthony, a lot of this, the the Warriors' pursuit of LeBron. It's kind of detracting from the fact that the Warriors were hoping to go younger going into next season. Now, they did add Yaxel Lendeberg, and they did add Lejay Jones in the draft. But in terms of other offseason moves, it's been bring back Al Horford, bring back Kristaps, bring back Melton, try to get LeBron. None of these are what I would call get younger moves. What would you say right now is the status of this Warriors intended youth movement?
Yeah, I think part of the, in a weird way, part of the youth movement is just to keep the ink dry, the books dry for the long term, because it seems like a roster that is really going to turn itself over the next 2-3 years, right? And that's part of the, quote unquote youth movement is not trading the first round picks. And again, that doesn't necessarily help this year's roster, and I'm not sure that's something that the fan base wants to necessarily hear. But clearly, it's a team that either desires to use those picks in the coming years to go try to get your more mid-prime star for the future, or might straight use the picks like they just did on Yaxel Lendeberg. So maybe they add one or two, younger tier free agents. Like I said, Anthony Simons is a name I've spotlighted over the last couple of weeks, but generally it seems like it's going to be one of the oldest rosters in the league, an old core that's going to, in a lot of ways, look like last season. They just hope that also includes LeBron James, because that would at least add a spectacular flair to the wing position.
As far as DeAnthony Melton goes, it seemed to everyone here that he was not going to be returning to the Warriors next year. Like, we were all pretty convinced at that. How did that come to fruition that he comes and signs a 2-year deal all of a sudden? Obviously, the Warriors needed help in the backcourt, but it seems to me there was other people on the free agent market they could have gone after. Why did the Warriors end up doing this?
They wanted him back. They just want, we're going to allow him to test his market, right? He declined the player option, particularly when he was playing really well in what would have been like January, February range. I think there was a thought he had played himself into the 10 million, non-taxpayer mid-level 15 million type range. And clearly he went out and tested that. I'm not sure that was available to him out there. And the Warriors got him back at what they believe is a bargain, right? It's either the biannual exception or they can make it, kind of part of the mini taxpayer mid-level if they need to. But it's $5 million. They think it's a good fit, good bargain. You could make the argument that they should have gone after some other guys, but again, to your question, the Warriors always wanted him back. They just always wanted him back at a low price tag, and they feel like this is a low price tag.
They got Kristaps coming back for 2 years, but they signed the trade before the moratorium opened, which allows them to make that contract tradable this year, if I was reading that correctly. Do they see Kristaps more as a guy who is going to be playing out for these next 2 years, or should we be looking at this as like a guy who might get moved mid-season at the deadline if they need to make an upgrade around that part of the season?
Well, you don't sign that contract that creatively at that time with a raise from year 1 to year 2 that purposely is not 5% to make him immediately trade eligible. You don't do that if you don't want that flexibility, or at least that possibility of trading him at any moment. From what I gather, look, they want Kristaps Porzingis on this team. They obviously need to keep him healthy, keep him on the floor. When he is on the floor, he can be a big help to any lineup just because he's a stretch center who can protect the rim. But to answer your question, clearly there's a level of flexibility that they required from Kristaps Porzingis in signing this deal that doesn't really guarantee him anything at this point.
All right, one more for you here, Slater. We got Anthony Slater of Warriors Insider for ESPN joining us here on the River Islands guest line. Obviously, Draymond opted out. I'm not thinking that he's going anywhere. He says he opted out to try and make things easier for the Warriors to sign free agents. My guess is he's intending LeBron on that one. When the dust settles and the Warriors do re-sign Draymond Green, what do you think that contract looks like?
Yeah, I think that's dependent on the other business they can get done. I think that was part of, whatever agreement or conversation that Draymond Green clearly had with the Warriors prior to declining that $27 million player option was, giving both sides, Draymond, who's in a lot of ways part of these pursuits that are happening right now. It's giving them time to go out, figure out what the roster looks like, figure out how they can make, the best roster within their financial constraints. And then at the end of business, I expect him to probably be the last move in the sequencing. And if, nothing that creative can get done, theoretically they could just give him back the same number, that 1-year player option number, or again, if it makes sense, really lower that first year salary and then give him an extra year or two to make up for it. So to answer your question, it's probably going to be either like a 2-3 year type deal that starts 18, 19, 20 type range, or it maybe is a short-term deal that looks a lot like the player option that he declined.